It's that when you do anything at an elite level, you see it as the sum of lots of little parts, lots of little 1% knobs that we add up, that accumulate in this just amazing thing. Literally, one of our top performing copy right now, it says the subject line is beep boop locked on. And then you know what the body says? Hi, I'm an AI and I found you on LinkedIn. I'm usually pretty good at my job. The guy that owns me wants to talk to you.
The Next Gen Sales Leaders Podcast. Coffees for Closers.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Next Gen Sales Leader Podcast. My name is Benjamin Reed. I'm here with Chris Booth. He is the CEO and the founder of Charm. It is a GTM agency that does so much more, which we'll get into. He is a GTM philosopher, as you will soon find out. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Super excited to be here, man.
Okay, you were about to, right before we got on camera, you were about to say something interesting. So why don't you set the context of what we were talking about, and then what was that interesting point you were about to make?
Yeah. So we were discussing it was that, and it's funny because this is all connected, seemingly not at first, but that's the truth of life. Is philosophy is connected to physics, is connected to throwing a football. Yeah, it's all connected. And so what we were saying was that video quality, literally the rasterization on a video as you're watching it, might trigger sales pressure, or it might kind of pull you out of just that slide that you should be on in a good sales process. And what's funny is, Benjamin, just for context for the listeners, Benjamin and I started talking about lighting and the video and the quality and all of this stuff. And it's funny because this translates, and maybe you'll tee us up for a larger conversation around so much of doing anything at an elite level, having an amazing sales process, having a nice video, having just a good agency, a company, all of this. It is not a giant knob that you turn and it's like, oh, we went from 2 to 10. Awesome, huge gains, everything got better. No, it's that when you do anything at an elite level, you see it as the sum of lots of little parts, lots of little 1% knobs that we add up, that accumulate in this just amazing thing. And so it's that, for some, rasterizing a small pixelation on the video might not be that important. Well, that's because you're not doing it at an elite level. And that's the truth of our email campaigns, our phone calls that we have, our sales processes. Every little thing adds up. I can make a funny comment, and Benjamin, feel free to interrupt me wherever on this, and that I've spoken with my team intensely about this. You're talking to a long-haired guy that plays the saxophone, and you can infer what I like to do in my spare time. And even now, in this video, I'm talking with this hand. In my sales calls, I only talk with this hand because this hand has tattoos all over it. It's a sum of all these small little knobs that adds up, and we need to think about everything. How's the lighting? How are the things that I have positioned on my wall? Is that curtain wrinkly? All of these things add up, and they're very important.
This is a break in the podcast to bring you our sponsor, ReadyOps.com. That is REVYOPS.com, the #1 GTM data management platform for your GTM and revenue operations data on planet Earth. If you are using the modern stack of Clay and Instantly and Email Bison and RB2B and Trigify and all these various tools scattered across the wind, we unify all that data all into one place so you don't have any duplicates, a unified view of every single contact so you can see all the data and all the activities across all the platforms all in one place. It will allow you and your team to move faster, to get better attribution across the entire funnel, and to make a heck of a lot more money. Go to ReadyOps.com, check out how you can get started today with me on a call where we'll learn about your data management problems and how we can get you guys to the next level of growth. See you guys at ReadyOps.com. Go there now. It will be in the show notes as well down below. Let's get back to the podcast. That is so interesting. What's so funny? There's a great book, and two of my favorite books are written by the same author, Michael Singer, and one of them is called The Untethered Soul, The Journey of Becoming. And he has this statement kind of in the book, which I think is really relevant to this conversation. And I know we're deep into the philosophy right away, but fuck it. Here we are. Well, that's the best subject. So he talks about this idea of like, if you have a thorn in your arm, I mean, since you just brought up arm, that there's a thorn in your arm, right? And there's two ways to react to the thorn. One is you can remove the thorn, or the other way is you can live with the thorn in your arm and you can construct your reality around the thorn. So you can go and you can create a contraption to protect the thorn. Because if I get too close to you and I want to give you a hug, the thorn will cause pain, but I don't want it to feel that. So I create this contraption. And if I'm in the bed and I roll over, the thorn is there. So there's two ways to react. Again, pull out the thorn, or you can live with the thorn. And the metaphor is simple. It's that in our minds, and also in our sales processes, and in our realities, we are surrounded by perceived thorns. Now, one of the thorn, for example, is the tattoos, right? But is it a thorn? And that's a question. I'm not saying it's not, right?
Yeah.
But I'm saying that like it's interesting that you've actually changed your entire reality to live with just that thing. Now, again, maybe you're right. I don't know. Think we'd have to test conversion rates. Like, let's do 50% sample rate of like this, and then you should try this. Maybe people actually like your tattoos more, and they think it's like authentic, and it brings up discussions around jazz and about saxophones, and you become more relaxed because you're being more authentic.
And you are stepping on a landmine of an exact experience. We had an opportunity to work recently with a bunch of very buttoned up gentlemen at UC Berkeley, engineering college. Okay, they got referred to this, again, long-haired, hand-tattooed guy. And guess what? The dean of the engineering college gets on and goes, "You play the saxophone? Oh my gosh, dude, I played for years." And he just drops a dude right out of the gate and went, "Oh, all right, these are my people. I'm keeping that saxophone in the back." And then, we let them see it. And it doubles down at that point. And you become cool. And hey, maybe I'm getting something even a little more unique. So yes, the perception is interesting. And I agree, we would need the test.
Yeah, it's so interesting because like on one hand, I think it's such a fine line in sales. And I mentor a bunch of sales guys and people that want to start GTM agencies. Is one of my kind of side hustles.
Yeah,
that's a whole story. But I was on a call with this guy earlier today, and I said to him, "Look, the ironic part about me coaching you is that I'm actually trying you to do less and not more." Now, that's very counterintuitive and kind of seems counterfactual to the fact that you see me in this very glowing studio with a nice learn button or thing behind me and like some nice little ferns coming up, or snake plants, whatever you call them. And the truth is, what I found from a conversion standpoint is the more authentic and comfortable I feel, the better I convert. The more internal strife I feel and the more I play and I put on a false pretense, the more I actually don't convert well. So it's kind of a both and. It's you should optimize certain things that matter, but also try to be true to yourself. Because as soon as we get into trying to use one-liners, or you got to use a certain tonality, and there's so many sales coaches out there that are like, you got to use downtones and you got to do this and that. And I think
absolutely.
The thing that I'll like end on that is that I was in my early 20s. I'm 37 right now during this recording.
Oh, you're ancient too.
Yes, I'm an old man. And it's funny because in our industry, I'm like literally ancient. Everyone else is 20.
I got told the other day that, "Chris, you're a boomer." And I said, "No, I'm a millennial." And they went, "Chris, if you're not a Zoomer, you're a boomer." And I went, "Get out of here. You're fired." No.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Exactly. That's right. So the bottom line is that when I mentored this individual, I was telling them to be more authentic. And you can come up with things like have a better camera, and you can say certain things, and certainly a certain cadence does work for certain people. But what I have found is that when you find something that is true to yourself, it is sustainable. You enjoy doing it because you're just being you. And then two is, I think people emotionally resonate with authenticity more than anything. And what's interesting is, I don't know where I read this, and who knows, it sounds bullshit, but I'm going to say it, is that somebody did like brain scans of people and they put them into different states and they had them meditate on certain states. In some type of, I'm going to say a bunch of bullshit that's probably not true and it's probably woo-woo, but the principle and the idea is the same, which is, if you are in the state of love, you have a certain frequency or certain resonance in your brain. Again, resonance, frequency, debatable, I get it, but go with me for a sec. So there's this idea that there's an impact, right? But if you are in a state of authenticity, it's actually more powerful. Now, how you measure that and quantify that, who knows? I don't know. And again, shoot me. I don't know. But my point is to the listener or anybody who cares about this is that in my own intuitive and personal experience, love deeply matters. And what even matters more than love in some sense is being true to yourself, because I think that self-love,
They go hand in, yes, they go hand in hand.
they go hand in
And
hand.
not to interrupt you, I almost wish I could pull up a 30-minute consultation that I conducted this morning where someone that I work with came to me and said, "Hey, I'm struggling with this. I have these things. I'm not confused, or I'm confused about this. Where do I go?" I said, "All I can hear is that you need to go look yourself in the mirror and go, I love you. We're going to figure this out. It's okay. Show yourself
Exactly.
that self-love. Everything, your universe, everything around you should be characterized about it. And I'll justify it in my own way, and that you love yourself, who you are, and you will come to this thing that I just want to help other people feel this love. I want them to be comfortable, because there's been periods maybe where I didn't feel this good. And what you start to
100%.
understand is I just want to help people. And then, all connected as business guys stated, is that, and I've said this exact line myself, that when I was obsessed with making money, I didn't really make that much. And when I was obsessed with, I just want to help people, when I was expressing love, then it was that, yes, the universe went, "Hey, Chris, you figured it out. Good job." And now it is that I encourage everyone that it is that through love, we find this surrender, which allows us to be authentic to who we truly are. And for someone that might not have gone on that journey, yeah, it sounds a little woo. It sounds a little, maybe it's bullshit. But I'll just tell you, it's that how you get guys with physics backgrounds going, "Yeah, no, it's right. Absolutely. I sat there, I've crunched numbers. I've done all of that. I think very logically, hyper programmatically. My mind is like a giant script, it feels like at times." And yeah, no, that stuff is all real. That is where it starts. That's
In
how you get
fact,
to
I'm going to leave that whole blooper from earlier in this podcast, because I think it's helpful for people to see, like, look, you see
Yes.
these polished podcasts with people that are saying really smart things, and then it's like, look, we're human beings and we screw it up, and I lose my train of thought. And so it's just, I think that's a
Absolutely.
part of authenticity. And I actually think, again, ironically, given that I'm in the studio and this is like hyper polished, and this is going to be edited, that as much as we can maintain our humanity and our authenticity, do it. And so coming back, I
Yes.
remembered what I was going to say that the blooper started from,
Yeah.
which was, when I was in my early 20s, I was a single guy and I wanted to get better at meeting women.
Okay.
And I don't know if everyone remembers The Game. There was this book that came out a couple decades ago called The Game, and it was all about this guy named Mystery, and it was this a bunch of goofballs with
Yep.
love, goofballs that were running around trying to put on a certain air with all these different tricks and tactics, and they had their certain like necklaces, and it was
Yep.
all a game, literally a game of what do you say and how do you basically manipulate women into liking you.
Yep.
And there was a whole culture around this in the early mid 2000s, I think early
Yes, there was.
2000s. Uh, and I fell into that. I was 18 years old,
Yeah.
and I came up with all these pickup lines and all of these
Yep.
like ways of dressing. And there was like all these little subtle kind of words to describe where you were in the process. It was a full script. And then around the age of 27, I was feeling massively insecure. And I feel like despite all of that attempts, not to say that I didn't date and I wasn't, going on dates, it just, I felt internally, I felt insecure. And
Yes.
I, I read this book Models by Mark Manson, I think. It's Mark
I've
Manson.
read.
And he also writes The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck,
Yep.
which is a great book. And both of the books kind of say the same thing, which is stop with all the BS, stop with this need to constantly be performing, and simply return to the fact that what makes you attractive is if you're an interesting person, if you're authentic, if you have good core principles and values that align with the other person you're trying to connect with. That you're just genuinely a cool person that means well by others. And I know this seems kind of obvious to anybody who's like, yeah, obviously. But for me as a 27-year-old man
Of course.
at the time, it was a revelation. And I truly like walked around the world thinking people don't like me. I'm not attractive. I need to be something different. And I realized the actual truth was 100% opposite of that.
Yes.
And my whole message in sales, because it's a sales podcast,
Yes.
is that
Yes.
it's the same freaking thing. It's the
Oh my
same
gosh,
idea,
Ben,
you know?
I have a video, and I don't want to do, because I have to interject here. There's a bunch of criticisms. The better we get to know each other, you will pick up on these. I say to everyone, oh man, it's a day one. You're consulting with Chris Talk, building it, because I to work with a lot of men and women. I'm sorry, but I will speak to the men here. That is that I tell them, hey, you guys know relationship building really well. I guarantee you've thought about it your whole life. And building a relationship, intimate or business, is the damn near exact same thing. And I can go down a bunch of reasons and why I justify that and how that is and how it works out, but I would express the same thing. It's a matter of authenticity, the things we offer, who you are as a person. All of these things add up. And so you've already been practicing business in a way. Let's think about how you've been successful and where you felt the best. Okay, now let's port that over. And so, oh my Lord, I catch myself saying this so often. So I just want to echo, you are 1,000,000,000% correct.
Yeah, and I think the issue with where getting into societal kind of trends is right now everybody is trying to brand themselves and they're trying to put out content. And in the past, say 20 years ago, the concept of a personal brand was really just not well spread. Probably it really became more of a thing in the late 2000 teens, and it really exploded in the last 3 to 4 years, especially as we haven't been in person. And so even though we're more mature than we were, we're still at the very early stages of this. And so you can see people trying to find themselves, their identity in terms of their public image online. And, it started with the guys in the Ferraris and, the guys like, trying to be, I am in my garage, Ty Lopez style. And,
Yeah.
and right now on LinkedIn, there's all these guys who are in these very polished, like suede sweater. It's like, like everybody has their glasses on because that's the new version of GQ looking good. And the thing that like I really would love, and I'm trying to be this with my content, I'm trying to be this with just my general brand, it's just like, fuck it. Just like fuck it all. Like it's like just
surrender.
be yourself, And if that's ugly, if that's not feeling
Yes.
good, if that's not,
Yes.
just be honest. And so for me, like when I jump on sales calls and it's like early in the morning and I just woke up because they're in, Europe somewhere and I'm in Pacific Standard, they'll say, "How are you?" I'll be like, "I'm really tired. I just rolled out of bed."
Yep.
And
Absolutely. Freaking damn loot.
not because I'm trying to sell them, because I'm like, look, this is where I'm at,
You're authentic to who you are. It's what I'm experiencing. Oh my
Right.
Lord, dude. So you touch on it, just even kind of a branch or just something funny I've been experiencing myself, where we come back to this concept around truth, as we've been discussing here. Something that's been really frustrating with me, or frustrating me in general, in regards to, again, this truth thing, is that so much copy that I receive often in my inbox and my emails, wherever it is, says, "Hey Chris, I love what you're doing at Charm," and I go, "I didn't love Charm. You just started our relationship by lying to me." And
Yeah.
I do not understand how this is even remotely okay. Literally, one of our top performing copy right now, it says the subject line is "beep boop locked on." And then you know what the body says? "Hi, I'm an AI and I found you on LinkedIn. I'm usually pretty good at my job. The guy that owns me wants to talk to you."
That's cool.
That, and then it's a little more compelling. That's the essence of it. We're being as true. No, I didn't find you. I didn't even look at your company. My AI qualified you. That's it. Let's tell them that. Let's start the relationship off truthful. And then, of course, I surrendered authenticity. I like making little jokes. I like being silly. We do some of that. And it even literally says "yo" when we start. This is all so authentic to him. Now, there is something, though, I do want to be clear. We have to pair this thought with, whereas I want to be, militantly authentic. I want to be true to who I am. It's not that Chris is a perfect person. It's that, well, there are situations in where being truly true to who I am might lead to bad things. So we always pair this thought internally when we're educating, we're building our teammates, whatever it is. It's that, yes, we want you to pursue this authenticity, this live free, act fast, iteration tempo, break things, go. Just surrender. You cannot be negligent under any circumstances. There is a side to this. You have to question, is what I'm doing okay? You have to have this loop. I want you to break things. I want you to be authentic. But it's that I can't say, "Yo, what's up, mother effer?"
Yeah,
I
exactly.
actually talk that way. Let's stop at "yo." That's good. It's still
Right.
authentic to who I am. We can't be negligent. So it's
It's a good point. It's like, it is a question of like, I remember when I was a child, and this is like getting way into probably like Freudian psychology. But I was sort of 4 or 5,
Yeah.
and I think everybody, if you've read any of these kind of books on child psychology, they talk about this idea of you come out of just like I don't know what they call it, the pure ego. It's like where there's nothing else in the world matters other than you. You are purely narcissistic. You are this crying little being who is just
I've
completely
got two
dependent.
kids.
Right. And so we all kind of go through this transformation of kind of waking up and realizing, wait, that person feels something over there, you know?
Yes.
And it's like, oh, that's interesting, but they can't feel it as much as I do. And I distinctly remember, like looking back on my psychology of that age, having this belief that I was the only one that felt pain, which is a very weird thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, at 5 years old. And then I went through this cycle of going, oh, that actually hurt that person. And then just realizing more and more and more and more.
Sure.
So the reason I'm saying that is that you're right, is that when we come into, what do they say, well-adjusted? There's this term in psychology called well-adjusted, that your personality, is kind of comes out of the womb, develops as we go. But it's like, how can you both be fully authentic and also be well-adjusted to not really piss everyone else off around you? And yet in the job description, it's like, well, show up to the job and do a certain thing and be a certain way. And I think about this often, and it's not like I'm sitting here with the answer, but I will admit that the reason I chose entrepreneurship and owning my own businesses, I've never worked in corporate America, is because I have a allergic reaction to being overly controlled, which gets into, again, my childhood psychology around, like, I just want to be able to say, like, fuck, if I want in the middle of a meeting, and, you know?
Damn straight. Absolutely. Oh, I'll sympathize with you. There is absolutely no, if we go back on that work history, there's no W-2 in there. So let's get that straight. Absolutely. I checked in for my own job since I was 17 years old because it was difficult. That thought of, I can't go into a client call. Wow, that's fucking bullshit. Wow, those results look like shit. We're going to get this fixed up. I want to be able to talk like that. Absolutely. Because that is true to who Chris is. And it's what your impulse probably is internally. Wow, those results look like shit. All right, well, I'm just going to say it. And it's that, again, it does not, I think, and actually, excuse me, let me maybe express this thought here to clarify what I'm feeling, is that I think it's surrender to principles, not to impulse and actions.
Right.
It's that I'm surrendered to this thought of, honor, respect, love, this growth with my community. These are the things that I'm surrendered to. And it's not, just my most primal impulse here. And I think that's probably the line if I were to flesh it out further. Not that I'll plant my flag on that, but when I consider, like, where does this philosophy, what are the upper limits and the lower limits on it? It probably is that, yes, I'm surrendered to these greater ideals. And, well, that doesn't mean that I'm so surrendered that I don't wake up and check in for my team 12 hours a day. No, in fact, this surrendered version, uber loving version of Chris has never worked harder in his life, has never been more militant in his life. And so it's not that I'm surrendered necessarily to actions, it's to desires, hopes, dreams, concepts, things bigger than me. So it's just an interesting thought there that I'm auditing for myself as we're talking.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I just think that in general, in the business and sales world, these conversations I have not heard happen, frankly.
Oh.
And I would say in our own little sphere of GTM, sales, B2B, sales and marketing, it especially isn't expressed. And I would even argue, which is funny, that most of the archetypes, the characters that we find ourselves, GTM agency owners themselves, tend to be us. I mean, literally, like
absolutely.
Free thinking, like kind of rebellious, a little arrogant, and I put myself into that. Strong, opinionated, but rebels. I mean, essentially rebels.
You are nailing it. Dude, as I expressed, I have only worked startup, building businesses, agencies since I left my parents' house. I have never I've worked in an industry where so ubiquitously the guys that run the industry, it feels like I'm talking to a clone every time.
Exactly,
when I go and sit down with Benjamin, we have not talked really. Probably we've sent a few chats back and forth, but sitting here going, oh my God, I guarantee we trace back. We probably could have been best friends throughout life. And then it's that every time I say, it's with every one of the 50 guys in our Discord where we talk and, chat. Yep. Every single one of them too. It's just a hilarious thing. And I don't know what it is specifically about go-to-market engineering that attracts it. But again, I've never seen something so congruent across the leadership of the industry.
And what's even weirder, so I did a LinkedIn post on this where I took a screenshot of everybody's picture You know, because the thing
Oh
is,
yeah.
like if I cut your hair and I got rid of your,
Yep.
well, even not the beard, we
Absolutely.
probably look relatively similar, you know? So the thing is that there's this montage. If you go on Benjamin Reed LinkedIn profile,
Okay,
go
I
back
have to
about
check
to
that
like
out.
December, and you'll see that it's like me with a bunch of kind of mug shots of all these other GTM agency owners, and we all are basically like, aside from a couple like brunette, like
Yeah.
mid 30s, mid 20s, you know, white guys of
Someone needs
some
to
mix.
audit this. Yeah. What's going on here?
There is something weird, and it made me
Absolutely.
think. I'm like, okay, how did I get sucked into this particular industry? Like life is teaching me
Yes.
something because in some sense I get to experience myself like literally hundreds of times because now I am a
Yep.
coach to this crew of people
Yeah.
and I'm actually
Absolutely.
seeing my version of myself 10 years ago. And what's
Absolutely.
so funny
That's
is I'm like saying to everybody, look, the difference between a 20 to 30-year-old GTM engineer and a 30 to 40-year-old GTM engineer is wildly different because the new guys are it's Dunning-Kruger's extreme arrogance, extreme
absolutely.
dumbness, you know, making all the mistakes.
Absolutely.
And you talk to the 30-year-old guys and it's the same person really. It's just 10 years difference. And I can see it, but I'm like super like, oh my God, was I like that when I was 20?
Absolutely.
No
Oh, I
shade to
know.
the 20-year-olds, you
Oh,
know?
oh man, Benjamin. So this is hilarious. I love that you're bringing this up, man. Because I audit the same for myself often, and I tend to do a lot of mentorship and consulting with younger agency owners that are kind of coming up in the world, and it is hilarious, time and time and time again. I'll tell them, oh my gosh, I'm flashing back to 10 years ago, standing in Albania, looking at one of my mentors, going, oh, I have this really, it's so funny, man. I
Are
had
you from
four people.
Albania?
No. It's
Okay.
we were out working with a really cool dev shop in Kosovo, and you say Albania because no one knows where Kosovo is.
Okay, got
Amazing
it.
country, great people. But I was out there we were working with an amazing robotics company, and I'm talking with one of my mentors, and I was working his account. I was like, I need to step outside of your account. I need advice because you're literally one of my mentors. I have a couple people that are going to be quitting, like also soft, letting them know. I'm feeling absurdly stressed out. Like, how would you deal with this? Like, and he literally sat down with me and was like, all right, Chris, I'm just going to tell you, this is what I would do. But all of this could be restated as you just don't be a bitch. Just get it done. Just go ahead. And then you're going to look back on this and you're going to laugh at yourself. And I promise you. And it is so damn funny, man, because as I now have some maturity, I say some, as I've gone on this journey, I look back and I think to this moment, standing on that rooftop with Ravi, as I'm going, hey, what do I do here, man? Like, how would you work this? I was so stressed in this. And now I speak with these younger folks, and it's so funny because I think about just how emotional I felt at that moment, how just, yeah, and experienced. And as I'm sitting there now telling, I'm going, oh my gosh, I was there. I remember the questions you're asking me. These are so small in context of the rest of everything. But I know what you're feeling. I know, again, how immature the emotions feel, how all over the place. Your dreams, your hopes. I'm building my first ever business. What if things go wrong? And all of this. It's so funny. But this is just to echo. Yes, I see my own when I'm doing my consulting, my mentorship, or even our own engineers that are younger. There is a duality. Absolutely.
You know, so speaking of which, like one thing I'm seeing in the industry right now, which I think is broadly a mistake, is everyone is trying to uh, vibe code their own thing.
Ah,
And they're trying to build these massive platforms internally. It's interesting because there's all these kind of Clay cohorts, these schools to teach people how to use tools. And so everyone's dropping $10,000, go pay for this
sure.
Clay thing, go pay for this Claude Code cursor thing. And I
Sure.
have now one of the bigger webinars on Claude Code, hilariously.
Okay.
And it's free. So anybody who's listening,
Brilliant.
I'm not paying, I'm charging for that. But the reason that I bring it up is I think it's the wrong focus. And I say that because the way I got into every single business I got into was it's kind of what's the guy, the Virgin Mobile owner? What's his name?
Richard
Richard
Branson.
Richard Branson. So his whole thing is when he gets into a new industry, he goes and finds the smartest guy who has succeeded in that industry before, and he partners with that guy. So that's like literally what I do. And every time I launch a new venture, and what I do is my job as the visionary and as the business owner is to go prove I can sell it for a high ticket and make it a profitable business model and make sure that I can fulfill at the highest quality possible, period.
Sure.
And so what I see a bunch of new people do right now is they justify going and spending a year learning to code or learning to be a Clay guy, or now everyone's obsessed with Claude. And I'm like, look, like in the time you just spent to go do all of that, guys listening to this, I have now sold $100,000 in contract value in the last 8 weeks because I was focused on what actually matters, which is selling great offers. And then what I do, if I sell the offer, when I first got into lead gen, I went and found the top instantly guys I could find. I said, hey, can I pay you $5,000 a month? They said, sure. And I went and sold a $20,000 contract. Knew nothing about Instantly. Guess what? Go on Instantly's expert website. Who's there?
Yep.
Me, right? You know, and so it goes
Yep.
to show I jumped the line because I played the game differently than
Yep.
what most people do.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think it even just kind of transitions to, it's just so funny is that I was, again, today, Fridays are my consulting days. So I had another call this morning where I was talking to some young men building a startup, tech startup, a little SaaS tool. And it was so funny because they were having trouble getting a hold of someone. There was something on. They were like, dude, this deal is dying. And they're in the same city as them. And I said, okay, well, why don't you just go drive over to the office and say, hey, I was just trying to get a hold of you. And they went, oh, you could do that? And I went, there's no rules. Like there's
Yeah,
just
no
go
rules,
do
yeah.
things. So like just
Right.
go try. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, so I want to take a step back on something you're talking about here. So I would say this because I am one of these individuals that is excited by Claude Code. And I can kind of trace though, because I will say before I go down this path, I echo what you're saying largely, that for the vast majority of people, this is shiny new object syndrome. And it is that I'll kind of pair a few ideas. We need to always, in our lives, just whatever it is, let's start with what's the outcome we're trying to achieve.
Exactly right.
Let's
What's the
work
result?
backwards. Yeah, absolutely. And is it that you're going, oh, I think Clay is a cool tool? Is it, I think Claude looks cool. I'm going to get left behind. Okay, well, you're going bottom up. It's what are you trying to achieve and coming back from there. Now, I'll also share that one of the reasons these things are so exciting is because, and not my original words, but it was said so well, maybe by, I think actually maybe Varun said it himself from Clay, where it was just the reason Clay is so successful is because it enables creativity. It has its purposes, but it's not purpose built. It's sit down. What could you use this for? I had a video that got shared by the founder of Lovable where I used Clay to pipe out customer service ticket data and then layer in ClayGent to look at all of our customer service tickets. I was like, oh, you could even use this as like a little database for customer service stuff. And then you can programmatically evaluate it. It makes it really easy to visually analyze each ticket. And of course, there's probably better ways to do it. But the point is that tool just enables creativity. Okay. So then I would also argue Claude does similar, even maybe at a larger scope, which is why folks are so excited about it. And therein, we need to ask ourselves the question. This is where the pitfall happens. Does my go-to-market engineer need a $200 max plan to sit there and rip on Claude Code? F no, they don't. Maybe a few folks in the administrative group need to be working and spend a couple hours a day building things. And hey, we're going to have a track where for the next 90 days, every Friday, we're going to meet up and share what we've built for that week. And it's just an administrator initiative. So it's that, again, I even referenced kind of the word I used earlier. We can't be negligent with our pursuit of these tools, with our pursuit of creativity and enabling it. I love creativity. It's made us a wonderful business. I'm a creative person. I think that's something that characterizes damn near every person in go-to-market engineering. But again, there is a limit on, does that serve the outcome we're trying to achieve? And I do not think it does for the vast majority of folks in go-to-market engineering. It's cool, yeah, but a lot of it stops there.
So this is like super deep because there's, and I've been saying this, I'm going to repeat it here again, which is, let's start with kind of the base idea, which is what is the most creative medium possible in terms of go-to-market? It's just like pure code, right?
Yeah.
And so, because pure code has, even if you go to a base layer, it's like ones and zeros, right? Like we're just going like to the matrix, right? Electrons, right? So at some point you raise up to the next level. It's like, okay, so now you got this cluster of things, then it turns into a next cluster, and then you start to build on top, right?
Yes.
And my friend who is a CTO at a good sized startup named Group Raise, Paul, Hey, Paul, if you're listening. He won't ever listen to this podcast. He calls it the biology, which is like this idea of like below a certain line, you can go infinitely deep on any subject and literally truly like spend your life there.
Yes.
It's kind of like that thorn idea. It's like you can like go live around the thorn. You can go live around like finding out the base reality of, astrophysics if you want to. But at below some point of understanding, you just simply don't need to know. Like I don't really need to know why JavaScript is the right way JavaScript is. And so when you take that basic idea that you start to raise up to different levels, ultimately everything is essentially arbitraging the below that you don't see. Now, if that's
I love
true,
that perspective.
so if that is true, so now we take a look at like one of my mentors. I've done 4 SaaS companies, and one of my mentors who is kind of like a fractional CTO advisor guy, who I talk to, and I always am like, we need more flexibility in the tool. Let's build this thing. So my current application is ReviOps. So if I like want to build something, I'm like, but look how creative Clay is, and it's like, look how like they can do 1,000 things. There's a bazillion use cases, and he said something to me that stuck with me about a year and a half ago when I was building kind of the first parts of the product ethos and my opinionation about what the product should be. And he said, look, if you want pure optionality, you go pure code. As soon as you start layering in constraints, that's actually where the value is created. And so even Clay has constraints, right? So you can't do infinite things with Clay.
You're defined by what you say no to, by the negative inputs. That gives you the definition. Yes.
Right. And so the interesting piece here, and this is where I think there is a human dynamic that's occurring that's actually not productive within the GTM community, which is that I think people that are attracted to GTM engineering in general are people that are sales individuals who have historically not had a creative outlet in business the way that, say, a graphic designer does, or a product manager,
with me
or
tremendously.
right? Me too, totally. And so we're these creative sales guys who are always told, just go sell. It's like, no, but I want to create. And so I think the truth of what happened in this very small piece of time, I think it's only this next 3 to 4 years where this is true. Maybe that's not true, but let's just go with it for a sec, is that what Clay actually did miraculously, it wasn't the product. It was the fact that they recognized this pent-up demand in salespeople, and they realized at a meta level, it's why they call it Clay, it's because it's creative, that if we give these people at the nexus of GPT and AI coming onto the scene where they've been put under the rug for the last 100 years, and we give them a tool to finally create their own thing, that they can go finally express themselves and own their own business. So their actual genius was not the product. It was the understanding of the market demand that was actually there.
Sure.
Now, the problem with that, and this is where I get to my point, is that it's actually not productive. And here's why I say this, is that fundamentally 99% of the use cases on Clay, like the vast majority of what people use it for, is list building. Most of it. And there's edge cases of CRM cleaning and some weird, I think I had it, one of the GTM engineers at Clay was my last podcast, shout out. And he was saying that I asked him the most unique thing that he does as a GTM engineer at Clay, which is super meta because they coined the term.
That's
and so I asked him, what's the craziest thing you've done? He's like, well, that trash company, I can't remember the name of the trash company, but he said they actually take pictures from Google of the trash cans to determine what type of customer is out there, and they load that image into Clay to then do some type of analysis, right?
See, that's cool.
So that, like, okay, right, but it's like how often is that going to happen?
Yeah,
so
exactly. I know.
And
so
that
was a genuine reaction. I was like, let me see that table.
Yeah, exactly. But so, and I've seen wild things like we use Clay as the back end for some type of customizable front end on Webflow, where you have customizable stuff.
Yep.
So I'm not saying that like there aren't edge cases and there's use cases. I'm saying the vast majority of the utility of Clay is to build a list, to qualify the list, to clean the list, to verify the list, and to send an email, a LinkedIn message, or something else. And so my whole point here is this, is that although the entire GTM persona type, like you and me, the creative guys who got swept into this market and find value in creativity itself, and we're just super geeked out by it because we're nerds and we have fun. The actual utility and value creation could have been done with a very simple set of Python cleaning scripts for the most part. I mean, realistically
Sure.
speaking.
Absolutely.
So anyways, I think that's what's so interesting about this.
Yeah.
I'll hand the floor to you. What do you
No,
think?
I not that I even have too much to add to that. I wholeheartedly agree on this. So kind of in my own way, maybe porting the idea, scaling it, whatever, just kind of playing with the idea is that we talk often with our team around this thing. We joke. There's kind of even as this Claude Code world has been happening, this thing around go spend 2 hours to do that 30-minute task. Like go build a 2-hour long tool to go do that 30-minute thing that you could have just done manually. And it brings me back to this kind of just as we're discussing here that, well, is Clay even the best tool for the thing? You literally could have done that task with a Python script, and that's existed for 15 fucking years. Like you could do that forever. And so anyway, it's just funny, this discretion that goes into it. Again, coming back to an earlier anchor in the conversation, what is the outcome that you're trying to achieve? All of this stuff helps head off those things. Absolutely. And so it's that, do you need to use Clay when you could have just used that Python script?
Right,
Did you need to
exactly.
use Claude Code when you could have just used this thing? Did you need to automate it when you could have just done it manually? All of these things, absolutely. And again, kind of bringing it back to that point is it is made clear by what is the outcome you're trying to achieve. That'll help dictate which tool does that the best, the easiest.
And I think one of the problems and where the confusion comes from the GTM world is because RevOps, right, revenue operations, is more of a senior discipline that works at mid-market enterprise companies because SMBs don't have the budget or the wherewithal to know what a RevOps person does. So all of a sudden you have this legion of wannabe GTM engineers. Not to say there aren't real GTM engineers, just the vast majority are.
We know what you're saying when you say that. We know.
Yeah. They're a guy who slapped it on, learned Clay in the Clay Club, and here he is online, like talking about how he's a
I've been
genius.
selling businesses for 17 freaking years. GTM engineering. Oh, that thing that you just named. We've been doing this forever. We've been creating.
Right.
We've been trying to build things. It's just you slap that on your product. That doesn't make you a GTM. I'm a pro football player.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the bottom line is, and I hear I'm going to lose my train of thought again because
I know,
we're
I'm
like,
sorry.
we're having conversation where it's like literally like 4 layers deep and we have to come back up and be like,
know.
what are we doing? I literally need a notepad here. So we were talking about GTM engineering and we were talking about how there's wannabe GTM engineers, but why was I saying that? Oh, so getting back to the point, which is in business generally, I always talk about the 5 points of leverage. And so everyone talks about human capital, human beings, most important in my opinion. 2, and people will say, well, no, not with AI. I still think humans win. 2 is you need to have some type of technology, which automation falls into. 3 is
I
content.
think Ravikant says code is like, but let's repose
Code
that.
technology, yeah, in the same ballpark, yeah.
Exactly.
Content, I would argue audience is a piece of it, and obviously
Absolutely.
cash in the bank. So there's probably more points of leverage, but those are the ones I hear quite a bit. And I've repeated this on the podcast before that there's actually a 6th point of leverage that's more important than all of those. And the reason for it is because each one of those points of levers can kill your business or stunt your growth. So if I allocate capital too quickly, there's trade-offs. If I use technology unnecessarily, there's trade-offs. If I hire a person too early or fire somebody, there's trade-offs, right? So there's not anything good or bad about any particular one of them. It's they all have the right place, right time, lever. And so the true leverage here is actually not any one. It's knowing when to apply the right thing at the right time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
But real quick,
please.
real quick, I just want to dot this because this is the point, is that when the GTM engineering companies in our space have this idea of, well, I'm just going to go buy a Claude Code subscription. And you see every GTM agency owner, they won't shut up about, I just got rid of my accounting software and yada, 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 yada. And my thinking in this is, and they've given all their team and they're all now Claude coding and they're creating these context databases and it sounds super sci-fi. And I'm just sitting here like, is that truly the best lever that you could have pulled in the last 90 days? you know?
Absolutely. And so we break into this conversation about again, we're coming back to philosophy here, in that this reality is predicated, it is dictated by, and there are smarter people. There's a guy, an apple fell on his head and he figured this all out by rates. There's
Mm.
a velocity attached to everything that's happening around us. And it's not that we're at a zero or a one. It's not that we're at a standstill or we're moving infinitely fast. No, there's again a velocity and we accelerate at a certain rate on this. And so what you're saying, like if I'm to port this into physics speak or whatever, is that, okay, it's not just that ideas are static. You have five. No, these ideas actually move at certain rates. We use them at certain times, and that it's not that, well, because we chose to use this one and it moved at infinite, these others sit at zero. No, it's maybe that this one came up at this rate, this one backed off at this rate, this one came up at this rate, and it's a much more dynamic perspective. And so it's just, I encourage largely in a lot of the talks that I have is that you need to ask you, anytime you catch yourself thinking in zeros or ones, it is this way, it isn't. No, there's a velocity attached to the thing happening. How quickly is it happening? How quickly is it not? Anyway, it's just a much more nuanced way to surface the gray in all of this.
And I think this gets back to like, so what is the utility of constraint? And the utility of constraint, which means that you can't do something, is that it directs attention much better than unlimited optionality. And the problem with pure code, coming back to the biology idea, is that when you give someone like you or me, who we are endlessly curious and obviously smart enough and courageous enough to go try, we end up on many little side quests and we waste our energy and our lifeblood perhaps having fun. Maybe that's maybe and by the way, I should put this in a big asterisk.
Yep.
If it is just fun for you and that is your joy in life, then tell me to fuck off.
No worries.
But if the goal is to maximize revenue, then I think that it's the wrong focus.
I think I word for word said that myself. If this makes you happy and you dig it, well then hell yeah, go build your 4, 6, 7 little ideas companies, your little tools all day, man. Hell yeah. Now, if you want to make money, we need to have a talk. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, I know we're running out of time. We're probably a little over. So I like to, since we've been so philosophical, I like to ask first, where can people find you online if they want to follow up?
Yeah, absolutely. So Instagram is where I'm going to be. Actually, we have a huge content push going out on Monday. Going to have a bunch of fun videos, things going up there. So Instagram, Chris Booth Official. And then, of course, just on LinkedIn, Christopher Booth. That's where a lot more of the just kind of the professional buttoned up stuff will be. So kind of a duality. Instagram, maybe a little more fun. LinkedIn, Christopher Booth.
And what about the website? What's your website?
And then website will just be HIRE, Hire Charm, CHARM, hirecharm.com.
Cool. Okay, so this is my final question that I like to ask everyone. Putting aside the entire conversation, or including it, doesn't matter to me. Putting aside business, really, is what I meant to say. If you were to go to Pluto, and this is my kind of cliche thing I end every podcast on, and you were never going to return to mankind, but you wanted to leave one message, and in the echoes of space-time, this is the only message that would ever reverberate, what message would you leave with the world?
Oh, so that's so hard because you're talking to a guy that reads tons of sci-fi and fantasy, and then I just immediately went off. It was like an alien race finds Chris's message 70,000
Yeah, exactly.
years, and how do they interpret it? And literally the first thing, because I do think it's important to just the impulse. My gut knew, and it was funny. It was 2 words, and often I think this could even be phrases. What is the last message you leave on Earth? If you're past, what is the very last thing you say to anyone, and what represents you? I know in my heart it is spread love. Quite literally that. And then I was thinking, well, they're thinking they find some little alien particle and it's terrible and they spread love across the universe. Might be a good story, but no, it's literally, I would say it's spread love, spread kindness, surrender. Everything's going to be all right. It's literally it.
Love it. That's amazing. Yeah, man. Like I said, my favorite book, Surrender Experiment. I went to this thing called the Mankind Project. Highly recommend it for any guys out there who want like a really deep experience just as a human being. Go through the Mankind Project. I'm sure they have it in your city. And within that experience, there was a meditation, and my that meditation led to the name that we had to adopt within that community. And and I didn't know that was the case. It's not like they tell you, and this is going to now be your name for the rest of time. You can change the name, but my name was the meditation. Let me just start by saying I ended up in a kind of green pasture, and there was across the horizon, there was going to be something that appeared to me that was meaningful. And anyways, what appeared to me was my wife, and she was just radiating sunshine and just beauty and love. And so then they said, when we came out of it, every man in the circle had to go around and say, what was your experience? And they're like, just use a couple words or a phrase. And mine was pure love. And so anyways, so my name became pure love in that community.
Absolutely.
So
It's
they now
funny.
refer to me as pure love, you know?
Absolutely. Well, dude, and I'll share with you, man, again, you're talking to a guy with a physics background that likes jazz. I like playing video games with friends. I hang out with my kids. I would encourage every person. It is that largely, probably if you're listening to this, you're someone that's concerned with becoming a better person, becoming a better version of yourself. And it's easy to wander around and think about how this happens. And well, you've heard a framework probably throughout your life: mind, body, spirit. What are you doing for your mind? What are you doing for your body? And largely, I'll say it's something I struggled with tremendously. Was I wasn't doing anything for my spirit. And I started pursuing things like, I'll share, my love is Sudarshan Kriya. There's different meditation styles. And I love silent retreats, going out for days, meditating with people, thinking about these things. I also love going to the gym and benching 300 fucking pounds and deadlifting weight. And I love shooting my Glock 17 and all of this shit. It all ties in. I am telling you, it is all important. So I just wouldn't discount any of these things. When you hear someone saying, yeah, and then my name was pure love. Yeah, the Chris that grew up in the middle of nowhere in a ranch in, Vail, Arizona, I'm like, well, that's a little weird. Now as a grown man that has gone out on my own journey, I've been to countries, I meditate, I've met other people. Oh, nothing in this universe makes more sense. It's beautiful. It's perfect.
And shout out to any silent retreats. I did one silent retreat, and by the third day, I never wanted to talk again. I was like so happy not to hear my voice. It was amazing.
Absolutely. Oh, dude, it's an amazing, and you have a podcast. You've already gathered. As my employees say, these Zoomers that call me a boomer, I'm a professional yapper. Yeah, absolutely. I can echo this. Is that you go, why did I ever talk? I got a lot more to learn. I need to, as you have in the back, I need to maybe just be quiet.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. I literally take the tip of my tongue, which is actually a sales technique, and when I am on sales calls, I put it behind the bridge of my mouth and the teeth, and I keep it there so I remind myself my tongue cannot move from there because I overtalk.
Oh my God, I'm stealing that because that's something I need to work on.
Yeah, just keep it there. Okay.
Yep.
And it's a reminder, a physical reminder that you do not have to speak. It's a problem.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Great tip.
Yeah. So finally we got to some sales tips. It only took us the entire episode. All right. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate you. This has been another episode of the Next Gen Sales Leader Podcast. I'll see you guys on the next one. Remember, love, surrender. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace out.